What's good? 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 Ah, I had to reset my computer. Um, it was acting up for some reason. So for some reason or another, it was acting up. I just want to get on here and talk about some general conversation. Sometimes we sit and we don't talk about general things like what's going on in the world. I mean, I know we don't want to talk about politics. However, we still need to understand that there are moving parts. There are some moving parts, and those moving parts uh, include us in a sense. Not you as an individual per se, however, but it includes us when it comes to a group of people and uh, our ethnic situation. For some reason, people have gotten to the point where, and I've witnessed it a couple times. They are getting to the point where some people are getting bold. What is that about? I don't know. I don't know. Why are people acting different? Why are people acting different? And I don't get it. I don't understand the reason why people are acting different. However, the plus part is in all reality, we might be winning. That's just from my perspective. I think we winning. I think we are ahead of the game when it comes to uh, how are we doing uh, in society at this point. So I think we are actually winning. To me, that's to me. I could be wrong. However, I think we winning, and I think we're ahead of the game. But we have to make sure that our young people are in the game. The old heads, so to speak, happen to be in the game, or they have their minds in the game. Whether they doing physically in the game, that's something different. However, I think we are ahead of the game. I think we are winning because we at a point right now in this country. Groups of people are frustrated, and for what reason I don't know. They sending in troops in all these different places, sending in they're sending in the National Guard. Does that make sense? I don't think it makes sense. What is the National Guard going to do that the state police can't do? What is the National Guard going to do that the local policemen can't do besides walk down the street in groups? At one point, they said that they were there to look for immigrants and people who were fugitives from other countries. But I thought that's what those agencies, a lot of those agencies were for. I thought a lot of those agencies were uh, for that particular purpose. I thought those agencies were there to to protect the community and look for felons and things like that. I thought that's what some of those agencies were for. But for some reason, that's probably not how it worked. For some reason, that's probably not how it works. I don't think that people are taking it serious on what's going on. Uh, they deploying troops in Chicago. Um, they supposed to do Memphis. They supposed to do St. Louis. They supposed to do it. They supposed to do. They supposed to um, places like New Mexico, Albuquerque, and Portland, and places like that. I think Los Angeles. They were supposed to send troops to those places. One of the things about uh, crime and random crime, you don't know when it's gonna happen. So the purpose of you having people uh, roam these communities, what is the purpose of it? What is the purpose of roaming the community and you don't know when the crime gonna happen? If you are happen to be going to these communities to say, we want to try to stop the violence. First, you don't know in the shy, you don't know who got ops. That's what they call them, ops. You don't know who got ops. Then secondly, some of the things that happen to be random. So you're gonna send people or send troops to a place where you don't know when something's gonna happen. They'll say that some of these communities are violent. Yes, they may be violent. They may be violent, but you don't know when the crime is gonna happen. If there are certain people that you're looking for in the community, I particularly thought that that's what those agencies were for. I thought those agencies were there to arrest people and go after whoever they got to go whoever they have to go after. So you got the FBI, you got DEA, you got the ATF, uh, you got county that has these task force. You have these task force that they put together, and in these task force, they are looking for criminals or people who've done harm to other people or people who supposed to be hustling. They looking for these people, and you gonna come and deploy uh, the National Guard to these places, and you already know who you're looking for. You already know who you're looking for. So if this is the case, and you uh, doing these makeshift prisons or makeshift holding places for these fugitives, and you know who the fugitives are already. Unless there are thousands that came, unless there are thousands of people who came to this country that happen to be fugitives. I'm just saying. Now, then we have had a conversation with somebody about some of the youth and what we need to do for the youth, blah blah blah. And me personally, sometimes uh, some of that boils down to parenting. Some of that boils down to allow him to get out of control. Since he was young. Since he was young, I allowed him to do whatever he wanted to do. And now he's 13, 14, and out of control. So what do we do? What do we do? How do we uh, save the children? There's a whole generation that is headed for destruction. Well, the next, let me see, it's one generation under us that's kind of whacked. Then there's a generation under them that's way left. We have generations that are messed up. We can't start over. We can't. You can't do. We can't do any human abortions. You can't do that. So we allowed the children to get out of control. So somebody said, "Well, you know, we need to do this, then the other." And my personal opinion that I want to say more than 80% of the problem is parenting. If you know your kids like to do something, do I think it's reasonable to take them to events that have things that they like? Is that a feasible thing? Is that something that we can do? Find out what our children like, or well, some of the young people now are our grandkids. We have to find out what the young people like. When I was young, I'm 57. When I was young, some of our mothers didn't work at all. The fathers were working, and we knew we knew to listen to our parents to a certain degree. Yeah, we did things that caused us to go left every now and then, but sometimes you got to instill that in them and tell them, listen. Some of them dudes that you hang with don't mean you no good. Why y'all over there doing this, that, and the other? Do you ever want anything in life? No woman wants some broke man. My mother used to tell us that all the time. You better get a job. Make sure you get a nice job. Make sure you doing all right. Because don't no woman want no broke dude. No woman wants a broke man. That's what they said. Okay? Then you had, like I said, you had a lot of mothers that were stay-at-home mothers or that was considered single. Some people were on public assistance. Some people were not. Some ladies had that husband or that significant other that took care of them forever. You just take care of the kids. Make sure them babies right. Some of the men, that's what they done. Some of them brothers had other families going on, but that's what they did. So for a nice little minute, you always had um, somebody watching over the kids or tending to the kids, to the children. And then we used to have those therapy sessions. People might say that they are not therapy sessions, but they are therapy sessions. What did I do? But they are therapy sessions. What I mean by that is when we were young and we had to eat dinner together, everybody ate at the same time. That lasted for a while. I mean, at least I want to say ninth grade, 10th grade, maybe. It's 83, 84, 82, somewhere around in there. So at some point in time, we were having these therapy sessions. Some people won't call them therapy sessions, but I call them therapy sessions. I call them therapy sessions. And the therapy sessions was uh, you sitting down. If my father was at home or not, we'd sit down and everybody would eat at the same time. At least for a nice little minute or a while. But like I say, around eighth, ninth grade maybe, we stopped doing that. That kind of, it was starting to fade away. So then we have we have that session was sitting around and talking about what happened at school today. What went on at school today? Nah, they trying to bully me. And my mother was, your brother at the school. You have any problems? Go find your brother. Or if it's something that you can solve without uh, resulting to somebody fighting, resolve it. We didn't have to. Somebody didn't have to get smacked all the time. We had to resolve it. We had to make sure that it was a conflict resolution. Some people didn't look at it like that. When it jumped off, it just jumped off. But we had to learn that we couldn't fight about everything. At least that's what was going on in our household. Now we have uh, sitting around at the table having these conversations, and to me they was therapeutic. Or if you sat around and you talked about I had some problems in school for as academically, if my mother couldn't help me, one of my brothers could help me. Sometimes we had to make sure that we people had help. And I think that at some point in time, uh, parents gonna have to go back to having those sit around the table, eat dinner at the same time conversations. Because some people don't know, they don't know that their son's going through something. They don't know that their daughter's going through something. Peer pressure is rough. You have some children that they want to um, be a part of the crowd because the crowd is cool. Ain't nobody picking on the people in the crowd. But one thing I learned about being in the crowd or running with the crowd is that they got more problems than anybody. Sometimes the person that's the leader of the crowd, well, let me say this, a bad crowd, a dysfunctional crowd. Some of those people who are leaders in those dysfunctional crowds, they happen to be the weakest ones. They happen to be the one that's hiding behind things. Y'all do me a favor and share this broadcast. Share this broadcast. I'm finna share the broadcast. Share this broadcast. Sometimes the person that's hiding behind that leadership in the crowd is the weakest one. And you talking about, when I say weak, that person has talked everybody in the crowd to do all the dirty work. They've caused people in the crowd to start all the mess. Sometimes they start a mess and they can't even fight. They ain't nobody. I was never impressed by what went on in the crowd. You know, join the crowd. I was never impressed by that. I was never fascinated by doing what everybody else done. That's just my personal opinion. I'm just saying. Now, what about sports? Sports. I don't know. I haven't been watching any football lately. I've just been trying to stay focused on getting back on track with what I'm doing now. Shout out to Christopher Shakur. Shout out to Carl Maddox. Maddox. Not Maddox. Carl Maddox. And Red Williams. Sometimes we have to be watch, we have to relax. We have to watch some sports, whether it's track and field. I love track and field. I watched the ladies win a championship. I haven't watched the men. I haven't watched them, but I've been doing a whole lot of nothing for a minute. A whole lot of just procrastinating, BSing for a minute. Sometimes we have to get back on track. Sometimes we have to get back in the saddle and get back on track. At least I think so anyway. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right. In my head, I may be right. But we have to make sure we get back on track. Get back on track and get focused on what's real, what's reality. What is reality? Time is moving. That's reality. Time stops and wait for nobody. That's reality. Whether you want to believe that or not, time stops and wait for nobody. That's reality. So, that's my 20-minute workout, my 20-minute rant. Appreciate all who stopped by. I might be talking about a whole lot of nothing sometime. However, I appreciate my guests, the people who stop by just to listen to me. Everything gonna be good. And I say two fingers mean peace.